Hey, what is going on, guys and girls? In today's video, I'll be doing a test with GPT-4 versus GPT-3.5 to see which one of them will be able to give us more up-to-date information. In my last video, I was able to show you how to create factual articles using GPT-4 by inserting information on topics in which you would like to write about that GPT-4 may not have been trained on. So in today's video, I wanted to see if there's a difference in terms of the output that we get back from GPT-3.5 and GPT-4, and if we're able to get more up-to-date information from one of these models. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I asked each of these models were to write an article about the specs of the iPhone 14 and how it compares to the iPhone 13. So because both of them are trained on information up to 2021, it should not be able to give me information, but I was able to actually get some info on the iPhone 14. I got some information on the display, some information on the camera, some information on the processor, design, and battery life, and the pricing. So this is actually GPT 3.5, and as you can see here, it's saying that the iPhone 14 isn't out as yet. So in terms of its understanding, for GPT 3.5, the iPhone 14 is not available. So all of this is kind of speculative, and even when we go to pricing, it doesn't really tell us what that pricing is. But if we actually go ahead and use GPT-4, as you can see here, it talks about the iPhone 14 as though it's already been released. So Apple has always been at the forefront of innovation, and its latest release, the iPhone 14, is no exception. So this is pretty important because maybe GPT-4 isn't trained on data past 2021, but it still has an understanding of things that have been released past 2021. So maybe it has some more information, or it's just a much more intuitive and powerful large language model that is able to deduce from older content that the iPhone 14 has already been released. So maybe it's able to read information on blog posts which talks about the expected release date of the iPhone 14, so it's able to then understand or come to the conclusion that the iPhone 14 is out. So we get some information about the design and display of the iPhone 14. It talks about the 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display, which is correct. And it also talks about the refresh rate of up to 120 Hz. So actually, let's go ahead and check this out quickly. Okay, so that information does seem to be correct. The iPhone 14 does have a refresh rate of up to 120. So that is correct. And in terms of performance, it talks about the iPhone 14 having an A16 Bionic chip, and the A15 is what's available in the iPhone 13. So let's go ahead and fact check this very quickly. So the iPhone 14 has the same chip that the iPhone 13 Pro had, which is A15 with a 5-core GPU. So it's A15, not A16 like it's suggesting. So again, some of the information here you definitely have to double check. iPhone 14 again is talking about the camera. It has Pro RAW, new image format. Okay, so let's double check that. Okay, so it does seem to have the Pro RAW feature, but I don't know if that's a new feature that's been included or that was included with the other iPhone 14s. The other iPhones. But again, we are able to get some pretty decent information here. I would definitely have to double check that information, especially if you're writing a blog post. But it talks about 5G support, enhanced Face ID, satellite communication, and so on. So as you can see here, you're able to get much more powerful and much more, I would say it's not totally correct, but you're able to get much more correct information using GPT-4. And I think that's just because it's a much more powerful large language model. It's been trained on more data sets, so it has more information to work with when it comes to making suggestions as to what's included in the iPhone 13 or iPhone 14, even though it's not trained on that information. So again, we can see a clear difference between the output that we're getting back from GPT-4 compared to what we got back from GPT 3.5. Again, GPT 3.5 was a little bit more generic, I would say, while we were able to get some more nuanced information on GPT 4. Second test was asking both of these large language models, what is GPT-4? And I was using the GPT-4 model first. So it actually was able to give us a really good definition of GPT-4. And again, it talked about GPT-4 being in the present tense, so it understands that GPT-4 has already been released. And when I use the GPT 3.5 model, it tells me that GPT-4 does not currently exist. It's a hypothetical successor to OpenAI's GPT-3 language model. So in GPT-3's mind, it's not been released, but in GPT-4, we do see here that they understand that it has been released. So again, that's a good sign from GPT-4. even though again it's not necessarily trained on information past 2021, you are able to get more up-to-date information from it. Now if I scroll down here, I asked it to write me about the new MacBook Air with the M2 chip, and it gives us a little bit of a disclaimer here. So it tells us that that they don't have information past 2021. However, it can offer a speculative description based on the information available up until that date. And we actually get some pretty good information here about the M2 chip, but again, it's probably basing it on the older models by Apple, and maybe blog post that talks about the M2 chip and what to expect from that. So again, we get some nice information there. We were also able to get some decent information using GPT 3.5, but again, a little bit more general, I would say. And the last test was asking them some more up-to-date information. So I asked them, why did the Silicon Valley Bank fail? And GPT 3.5 told me that in terms of their understanding, it is not failed and it's still operating. And when I asked the same question to GPT-4, it kind of told me the same thing. I was able to get more information about the bank in terms of its date in which it was established, but it also did tell us that it's essential to note that this information may be outdated, and if there has been a development related to the bank's failure after 2021 of September, I would not be aware of it. So again, while GPT-4 doesn't necessarily just say that this is the right answer or this is all I have, it also tells us that the information may be outdated if there's been something that's happened past the time that it's been trained on. So in terms of getting up-to-date information, and if you need to write more factual article, I would definitely use GPT-4 compared to GPT 3.5. While all of the data may not be correct, you are able to get more information because it's been trained on more data sets, and it's a much more intuitive model compared to GPT 3.5. So I hope that you guys found this little comparison interesting. If you did, let it be known by giving us a big thumbs up and subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Let me know in the comments below if you've used GPT-4, and also let me know how you like it compared to some of the other models, and if there's any specific use cases that you found with GPT-4 that may not be very popular. So again, if you liked today's video, let it be known by giving us a big thumbs up and subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video.